There is a group of people alive today who have physically evolved to live underwater, and science only discovered how recently, not metaphorically, not through technology or equipment, through actual genetic change, written into their DNA over generations of living a life that no other human population on Earth has lived. The Bajau people of Southeast Asia have been diving to depths of up to 60 meters on a single breath, without any breathing apparatus, for thousands of years. And when geneticists finally studied their biology, what they found inside the Bajau body rewrote what scientists believed was possible through human evolution in recorded time. Stay until the end, because the final discovery about what the Bajau body does underwater is the one that changes everything about how human potential is understood. The Bajau are an ethnic group spread across the maritime regions of the southern Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia, a vast stretch of ocean dotted with islands, reefs, and shallow seas that have served as home, pantry, and culture for this population for at least 1,000 years, and by some estimates, considerably longer. They are sometimes called sea nomads, a name that undersells the reality. The Bajau did not simply live near the ocean, they lived on it. Traditionally, entire communities spent their lives on houseboats, coming ashore only for trade, ceremonies, or shelter during storms. The sea was not a resource they accessed. It was the environment they inhabited. Diving was not a skill the Bajau learned as a profession or a sport. It was the fundamental mechanism of survival. Fish, sea cucumbers, octopus, lobster, and shellfish harvested from the seafloor were the primary food source and the primary trade commodity for communities with no pollute, agricultural land, and no other economic base. Children learned to dive before they fully learned to swim on the surface. By adulthood, experienced Bajau divers could hold their breath for up to 5 minutes, descend to depths of 60 meters or more on a single lungful of air, and spend the equivalent of 5 or more hours submerged across a single working day. Not in a single continuous dive, across dozens of dives repeated throughout the day, every day across an entire working life. Those numbers alone are extraordinary, but numbers do not explain the biology. For that, a Danish researcher named Melissa Illardo has to enter the story. Illardo was a PhD student at the University of Copenhagen when she traveled to Sulawesi, Indonesia, to study the Bajau population. Her hypothesis was that a population living this way for long enough might have developed genetic adaptations that supported extreme breath hold diving, not just physical conditioning from practice, but actual inherited biological differences from non-diving neighboring populations. To test this, she compared the Bajau with the Suluan, a neighboring group living in the same geographical region but without a diving tradition, using the same environmental conditions as a baseline. What the genetic analysis revealed was published in the journal Cell in 2018 and caused genuine excitement in the scientific community. The Bajau carried a variant of a gene called PDE1OA at significantly higher frequency than the Suluan. That gene influences the size of the spleen, and the Bajau spleen is, on average, approximately 50% larger than the Suluan spleen, even in Bajau individuals who do not dive regularly themselves. The enlarged spleen is not the result of training or conditioning. It is inherited. It is genetic. It is present in Bajau people regardless of whether they personally spend time underwater. The spleen's role in diving physiology is specific and remarkable. When a person submerges and holds their breath, the spleen contracts and releases a surge of oxygenated red blood cells into the circulatory system. This response, called the diving reflex or the mammalian dive response, is present in all humans and in marine mammals, and it extends the amount of time a person can remain submerged before oxygen deprivation forces them to surface. A larger spleen holds more red blood cells. A larger spleen releases a larger surge when it contracts. A Bajau diver with a spleen 50% larger than average is releasing significantly more oxygenated blood into circulation at the moment of submersion than any non-Bajau diver would, extending their effective breath hold capacity at a biological level that training alone cannot replicate. This was the finding that changed the conversation. Human evolution in response to a specific environmental pressure documented through genetic analysis, visible and a measurable anatomical difference between two populations sharing the same geography. The Bajau did not simply get better at diving through practice across generations. Their bodies physically changed over generations of selective pressure in favor of traits that supported survival in an underwater environment. The PDE10A variant was not the only genetic difference Ilardo identified. The Bajau also showed variants in genes associated with thyroid hormone regulation, relevant because thyroid hormones influence the rate at which the body consumes oxygen during periods of physical stress, including breath-hold diving. A body that manages oxygen consumption more efficiently during the stress of a deep dive has a measurable survival advantage in a population where diving is the primary method of obtaining food. Over generations, individuals with those variants were more likely to survive, more likely to sustain a productive diving life, more likely to pass those traits to children. The selection pressure was not hypothetical. It was daily, applied across every member of the community, over a timeline long enough to shift the genetic profile of an entire population. What makes this discovery particularly significant in the context of human evolutionary biology is the timeline. The Bajau had been living this way for approximately 1,000 years by conservative estimates, and possibly longer. 1,000 years is not a long time in evolutionary terms. The standard assumption in biology has long been that meaningful genetic adaptation in humans requires tens of thousands of years at minimum. The kind of timescale associated with the development of lactose tolerance in pastoral populations or altitude adaptation in Tibetan communities, whose ancestors settled the Himalayan plateau over many thousands of years. The Bajau appear to have developed measurable, heritable, anatomically visible adaptation in a time frame that challenges that assumption. Evolution, when the selection pressure is strong enough and consistent enough, can move faster than the textbook suggested. The Bajau divers themselves do not require any of this scientific context to do what they do. If the ocean can change human DNA, imagine what else is down there that science has not found yet. Subscribe for more stories from the deep.